Sophia and Emma had been best friends for as long as Sophia could remember. Their bond had been unshakable, a friendship built on late-night conversations, inside jokes, and shared dreams. They had been through it all together. High school heartbreaks, university struggles, and the tumultuous roller coaster ride of adulthood. They always had each other's backs, no matter what life threw their way. Emma was the kind of friend who would drop everything to help, whether it was comforting Sophia after a bad breakup or sharing a bottle of wine after a tough day at work. It was the kind of friendship that, at times, felt like family. It was Emma who had encouraged Sophia to go on her first date with Alex. They had met through mutual friends at a party a few months before, and Sophia was hesitant at first. She had been burnt by relationships before, and the idea of diving back into dating again seemed daunting. But Emma, ever the optimist, had convinced her that Alex seemed like a good guy. He was funny, charming, and had a warmth about him that immediately put people at ease. Alex was a man who, when you met him, made you feel like you were the only one in the room. "Come on, Soph, give him a shot. What's the worst that could happen?" Emma had said, smiling reassuringly. "You deserve someone who treats you right." Sophia trusted Emma's judgment, and reluctantly she agreed to go on the date. It turned out to be one of the best decisions she had ever made. Alex was everything Emma had promised and more. He listened when she talked, made her laugh until her sides ached, and treated her with a kindness that she hadn't realized she needed. They hit it off instantly, and within a few weeks, they became inseparable. As their relationship deepened, Emma remained a steady presence in Sophia's life. She would often join them for dinners or weekend outings, never once making Sophia feel like she was being pushed aside. Emma was happy for her. That was always how it seemed. At least, that's what Sophia believed. But lately, something had felt off. It had started subtly at first, with Emma canceling plans more often. Sometimes she would cancel at the last minute, claiming she had too much work or was feeling under the weather. Sophia had noticed Emma becoming more distant, but she shrugged it off, convinced it was just a phase. Life could get busy after all. One evening, Sophia decided to surprise Alex with a homemade dinner. She had been looking forward to their quiet night together, just the two of them. It had been a long week for both of them, and they hadn't had a chance to unwind. Sophia spent the afternoon preparing a delicious meal, and as the evening approached, she texted Alex to let him know she was on her way. When Sophia arrived at Alex's apartment, she expected to find it empty, with just the warm glow of candles lighting the room and the aroma of the dinner filling the air. Instead, when she walked through the door, she was met with a scene that immediately made her heart skip a beat. Alex and Emma were sitting on the couch, laughing together. Their heads were close, and their body language seemed too intimate. Alex's arm was draped over the back of the couch, but Emma was leaning into him, her laughter echoing through the room in a way that felt almost too natural, too easy. Sophia froze in the doorway, unsure of what to do. She felt a surge of confusion mixed with an unfamiliar feeling in her chest, something she couldn't quite place. Was it jealousy? It didn't make sense. She had always known that Emma and Alex got along well, but this was different. The moment Emma saw Sophia standing in the doorway, her expression faltered, and she pulled away from Alex quickly, as though she had been caught in some private moment. "Oh, Sophia, you're here early," Emma said, her voice a little too high-pitched, too casual. Alex quickly stood up, a nervous smile plastered across his face. "Hey, babe, I didn't know you were coming over tonight. We were just catching up." Sophia tried to mask the confusion that was swirling inside her. "It's fine, I didn't mean to interrupt," she said, forcing a smile. "I just thought I'd surprise you." But as she looked between Emma and Alex, something didn't sit right. There was an energy in the room, a tension, an unspoken understanding between them that she couldn't ignore. Sophia tried to push the thought from her mind, but it lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Anyway, I made dinner," she said, forcing a normal tone. "Are you hungry, Emma?" Emma quickly waved her off. "No, I'm good, really. I've eaten already. Thanks, though." She grabbed her bag, making a beeline for the door. "I should get going. It's getting late." Sophia didn't understand. Why was Emma leaving so abruptly? She had never acted like this before. But instead of confronting her in the moment, Sophia chose to swallow her unease. Maybe Emma was just tired. Maybe she was reading too much into this. Emma gave a brief goodbye, and Sophia watched her walk out, her heart heavy with an unfamiliar sense of doubt. Once the door closed behind her, Alex sighed in relief, collapsing back onto the couch. "That was weird, huh?" he said, running a hand through his hair. "She's been acting strange lately." Sophia sat down beside him, trying to shake off the odd feeling she had. "Yeah, she seemed a little off. You two seemed pretty cozy, though." Alex glanced at her, raising an eyebrow. "Come on, Soph. You know how she is. We've been friends for years. It's nothing. Don't overthink it." But Sophia couldn't help it. Over the next few days, she replayed the scene in her head again and again. The way Emma had leaned into Alex, the way she had left so suddenly, the way their laughter had seemed too natural. She began to notice little things that she hadn't before. The way Emma looked at Alex when she thought no one was paying attention. The lingering touches. The way Alex would often smile at her when she wasn't looking. She tried to push it aside, but her instincts told her something wasn't right. She didn't want to confront her fears, didn't want to believe that someone she trusted so completely could betray her. But deep down, she knew she had to face it. The feeling gnawed at her every time she saw them together, every time she caught Emma texting Alex, or laughing a little too long. Sophia decided to trust her gut. She had to know the truth. But the question was, how far was she willing to go to find it? And so began the quiet unraveling of what she thought was the perfect life. A life built on trust, love, and a friendship that had once seemed unbreakable. Little did Sophia know, the storm was only beginning, and the truth would be far harder to swallow than she could ever imagine. Sophia sat at her desk the next morning, her thoughts a tangled mess of confusion and unease. The image of Emma and Alex together, so comfortable, so at ease, played on an endless loop in her mind. She knew she shouldn't overthink it, but something about the way they had interacted, the way Emma had leaned into him so casually, didn't sit right with her. It wasn't like Emma to act that way. She was always the supportive friend, never overstepping boundaries. Was she just imagining things, or had something shifted between them? The morning passed in a haze of unanswered questions. Sophia tried to focus on her work, but the words on her computer screen blurred as her mind wandered. She had always prided herself on being a strong, rational person, someone who trusted her instincts and never let doubt take over. But this time was different. This time, her instincts were whispering that something was wrong. She could feel it deep in her gut. That night, as she made her way to Alex's apartment, she tried to shake off the nagging feeling that had taken root in her chest. She had convinced herself that it was nothing, that Emma was just being a little distant lately because of her own life stresses. But as she unlocked the door to Alex's apartment and stepped inside, the same feeling hit her again. Alex was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, the faint glow of the screen illuminating his face. He looked up as she entered, smiling warmly. "Hey, babe, I didn't expect you tonight." Sophia tried to smile back, but her heart wasn't in it. "Yeah, I just thought I'd drop by." She made her way to the kitchen, her mind still on Emma. What had she been doing there last night? What was the real reason she had left so abruptly? Sophia had always known that Alex and Emma got along well, but something about their dynamic had felt different lately. The easy laughter, the shared looks. It was almost as if they were in their own little world. "Is Emma doing okay?" Sophia asked, trying to sound casual as she opened the refrigerator. Alex looked up, his brow furrowing. "Yeah, I think so. She's just been a little off lately, I guess. Work's been stressful, or something." Sophia paused, her fingers brushing against a bottle of wine. "Right. But you two were talking a lot last night. You seemed pretty close." Alex's eyes shifted, and for a moment there was an uncomfortable silence between them. "We're just friends, Soph. You know that." Sophia nodded, though her thoughts were racing. She knew they were just friends. But were they? The way Alex had looked at Emma, the way they had interacted, it didn't feel like just friendship. And yet, she didn't want to jump to conclusions. She didn't want to accuse Alex of something that wasn't true, especially without solid proof. But she couldn't ignore the feeling in her gut that something was off. She spent the rest of the evening with Alex, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't help but observe the way he acted around her, the subtle ways he would glance at his phone when it buzzed, the way his hand would linger on her arm a little too long when he was talking to her. She had always trusted him, but now there was a tiny voice in the back of her mind asking if she really knew him as well as she thought. Later that night, as they settled into bed, Sophia couldn't sleep. She lay there in the dark, staring up at the ceiling, her mind racing. Was she being paranoid? Was she imagining things? Or was there something more to Emma and Alex's relationship than she was willing to admit? Unable to shake the feeling of unease, Sophia made a decision. She had to know the truth. She couldn't go on wondering, second-guessing every interaction between Alex and Emma. She had to find a way to get to the bottom of it, even if it meant confronting both of them. The next day, she found herself standing in front of Alex's apartment, her heart pounding in her chest. She had told him she would be coming over to spend some time together, but instead of heading straight in, she hung back, her fingers nervously fiddling with the strap of her bag. She had no plan, no idea how to approach this situation, but she couldn't let it go any longer. When she finally stepped inside, Alex greeted her with a warm smile, but she could tell something was off. He was acting distant, as if he were trying to hide something. It was subtle, a shift in his posture, a slight hesitation in his voice, but it was enough to set her on edge. "Hey, babe," he said, his tone a little too casual. "How was your day?" Sophia nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. "Good. Can we talk?" Alex raised an eyebrow, concern flickering in his eyes. "Sure, what's up?" Sophia took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I need to ask you something, Alex, and I need you to be honest with me." Alex's expression faltered slightly, his gaze flickering nervously. "What's going on, Soph? You're scaring me." She shook her head. "No, I just need to know the truth. Are you and Emma involved?" Alex blinked, as if the question caught him off guard. "What, of course not. What makes you think that?" Sophia crossed her arms, her voice steady but her heart racing. "Last night? The way you two were talking? The way she left so suddenly? The way you both acted together? It didn't feel right, Alex. I need you to tell me if there's something going on." There was a long silence as Alex searched her face, trying to read her. Finally, he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Soph, I don't know where this is coming from. There's nothing going on between me and Emma. She's just a friend, I swear." Sophia wanted to believe him. She really did. But something about the way he spoke, the way he avoided looking her directly in the eye, made her doubt his words. "I just need you to be honest with me," she said quietly. "I don't want to keep feeling like this, Alex. I don't want to feel like I'm being lied to." Alex stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "I'm not lying, Soph. You have to trust me." Sophia's mind was a whirlwind of doubt and confusion. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that everything was fine, that her suspicions were nothing more than a product of overthinking. But the nagging feeling in her chest refused to go away. The way Alex had looked at her, the way Emma had acted, it didn't add up. Later that day, while Alex was at work, Sophia found herself alone in his apartment, the silence weighing heavily on her. She glanced around, her eyes falling on his phone, which was left unattended on the coffee table. It felt wrong to snoop, but she couldn't help it. She needed to know the truth. Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone, unlocking it with the familiar passcode. She scrolled through his messages, heart pounding in her chest. There were a few casual conversations with friends, nothing too alarming, but then, towards the bottom of the list, she saw it. A string of messages between Alex and Emma. Her breath caught in her throat as she read through the conversation. "Can't stop thinking about you, babe. I miss you so much. I'll see you tonight, just you and me, okay? I can't wait to hold you again." Sophia's heart sank. She felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. Every word in those messages stung, each one a knife in her chest. She had been right all along. The doubt, the suspicion, it had all been justified. Tears welled up in her eyes as she dropped the phone back onto the table, her hands shaking. She couldn't believe it. Emma, her best friend, had been lying to her. Alex, the man she had trusted, had been betraying her all along. The pain of the realization was overwhelming, and for a moment Sophia didn't know how to breathe. She had been living a lie, surrounded by people she thought she could trust. Now the question was, what was she going to do about it? Sophia stood in Alex's apartment, her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of the truth crashing down on her. The messages on Alex's phone were a stark reminder of what she had feared, but never fully allowed herself to believe. Alex had been lying to her. Emma had been lying to her. Everything she had trusted, the love, the friendship, the security, had been built on a foundation of lies. Emma's heart sank lower. She felt as though the room was closing in around her. The walls seemed to grow taller, more oppressive with each passing second. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to confront them both right here, but her body felt frozen, as though the sheer force of her emotions had paralyzed her. The tears burned in her eyes, but she didn't allow them to fall just yet. She wasn't ready to break down. She wasn't ready to show how badly she had been hurt. Sophia's mind raced as she tried to make sense of it all. How long had it been going on? How much had she missed? Alex and Emma, her best friend and her boyfriend, had been seeing each other behind her back, sharing intimacy, secrets, and a bond that Sophia had no part in. The thought of it twisted her stomach into knots. She had trusted them both so completely, and they had betrayed her in the worst possible way. Sophia. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't hear the door open. It wasn't until Alex's voice broke through the silence that she snapped back to reality. "Soph?" Alex's voice was tentative, as though he knew something was wrong. "What are you doing? You look pale." Sophia turned toward him slowly, her body trembling. Her mind was already a storm, a mixture of anger, disbelief, and devastation. How could he stand there looking at her with those innocent eyes when he had been lying to her this whole time? She could already feel the hot sting of betrayal creeping up on her. Her heart was breaking, but she was determined to hold it together for just a few more moments. She needed to know the truth from him. "Why, Alex?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, thick with emotion. "Why did you do this?" Alex looked confused at first. Then his expression shifted as he saw the phone on the coffee table, the one he had left unlocked in his haste to leave earlier. A shadow crossed his face and his shoulders tensed. It was as if everything about him changed in that moment. The mask of the man she had thought she knew slipped away, and she saw the truth beneath it. Guilt. Fear. Regret. "I can explain," he said quickly, stepping toward her, but she took a step back, holding up a hand to stop him. "Explain?" She gave a bitter laugh, her chest tightening as she tried to keep her voice steady. "How do you explain this, Alex?" She grabbed the phone from the table, holding it up between them. "How do you explain these messages?" Alex's face turned pale. His lips parted, but no words came out. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Sophia could feel the tears threatening to spill, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not until she had the answers she needed. "I thought you loved me," she said. her voice cracking as the weight of her own words hit her. "I trusted you, and you betrayed me. With her." Her eyes flashed toward the door where Emma had left only hours ago, and the sight of her best friend's absence in the apartment felt like a slap in the face. She had opened her heart to Emma so many times, trusted her with her secrets, her fears, her hopes, and now Emma had torn it all apart, sharing something with Alex that should have been hers alone. "Please," Alex said, his voice shaky as he reached out for her, his hand hovering in the air between them. "Let me explain. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It wasn't planned, I swear." Sophia's eyes burned with anger, her chest rising and falling with each breath she struggled to control. "It wasn't planned?" she spat. "What, so it just happened? You just woke up one day and decided to betray me? And all the while you pretended everything was fine, like I didn't notice how distant you've both been acting." Alex's shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you," he whispered, his eyes pleading with her, but Sophia couldn't look at him the way she used to. His presence, once comforting and warm, now made her skin crawl. The man who had held her close, who had kissed her with such tenderness, now seemed like a stranger who had manipulated her, used her love as a tool for his own selfish desires. "Don't apologize," she said, her voice cold. "You don't get to apologize. Not after what you've done. Not after the way you've both lied to me." Alex opened his mouth to speak again, but Sophia cut him off. She had heard enough. She didn't want to listen to his excuses, to his empty promises. He had lost his chance for forgiveness the moment he chose to betray her. "Where is she?" Sophia asked through gritted teeth, her hands clenched into fists. "Where is Emma? Is she coming here to lie to my face too? Tell me you didn't make plans to meet her tonight too. Tell me she's not waiting for you." Alex didn't answer right away. His silence told her everything. The knot in her stomach tightened, and the pain, the sheer agony of it all, became almost unbearable. He had been planning to see Emma again. Of course he had. They had been carrying on this affair for weeks, months maybe, and all the while she had been oblivious, trusting both of them. How could she have been so blind? "I want you to leave," Sophia said suddenly, her voice trembling despite her attempts to sound strong. "I can't look at you anymore, Alex. I need you to go. Now." Alex didn't move. His face was filled with regret, his eyes searching hers as if looking for some kind of hope, but Sophia knew better than to let him in. There was nothing left to save. There was no way to repair the damage he had done. Their relationship was over. "Soph, please," he said, his voice cracking as he took a step forward. "I never meant for this to happen. I was weak. It just happened. But you have to understand, it doesn't mean I don't care about you." Sophia shook her head, her lips pressed tightly together to keep from breaking down in front of him. "No, don't you dare say that. Don't you dare act like you care about me after what you've done." Her voice broke, the tears finally spilling over, but she wiped them away quickly, angry at herself for showing any weakness in front of him. "Please leave," she said again, her voice now barely audible. "Just go." Alex hesitated, his eyes flicking toward the door, then back to her, but he finally nodded, his shoulders sagging in defeat. He turned toward the door, his movements slow and reluctant, as if he knew he was leaving something behind, something precious. But Sophia didn't care. It was already gone. All the trust, all the love, had been destroyed in an instant. When the door closed behind him, she let out a shuddering breath, her body collapsing onto the couch. She couldn't stop the tears now. They came in waves, each one a reminder of the hurt, the betrayal, and the shattered pieces of her heart. She had trusted Alex, she had trusted Emma, and now they were both gone, leaving her with nothing but the wreckage of their lies. As the minutes passed, Sophia's tears began to dry, replaced by a growing sense of emptiness. She felt hollow, as though a part of her had been taken away. stolen by the people she had loved most. But even through the pain, there was a small flicker of something else. Something that had begun to grow inside her as she had demanded Alex leave. So, it was the beginning of her reclaiming control. She had been betrayed, yes. She had been hurt, yes. But she wasn't going to let this break her. She wasn't going to let Alex and Emma define who she was. She had to move on. It was the only choice she had. Sophia stood up slowly, wiping away the last remnants of her tears. She wasn't going to stay in this apartment, in this place where the memories of them still lingered. No, she needed to get away, to start fresh, to heal. But before she left, she knew she had one final thing to do. She had to confront Emma. And when she did, she wasn't going to hold back. She was done being the victim. It was time for her to take control of her life again. The betrayal might have shattered her, but it wasn't going to break her. The days after Alex had left were a blur. Sophia went through the motions of her daily routine, but it felt as though she was walking through a fog. She had been betrayed by two of the most important people in her life, and no matter how much she tried to distract herself, the pain was always there, lurking in the background. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw the remnants of someone who had been broken. But she refused to let it consume her. She would not let it define her. She had spent hours in the apartment, staring at the empty space where Alex used to sit, where the life they had built together had once seemed so certain. Now everything felt unreal. The phone call from Emma that came a few days after Alex's departure did little to soothe her. Emma's voice had been hesitant, apologetic, as if she truly believed she could justify her actions. Sophia had listened quietly, her hands clenched into fists, resisting the urge to scream. The words "I'm sorry" meant nothing when they were followed by a dozen excuses and explanations for the affair. Nothing could make it right. Sophia had heard enough. Emma had chosen her actions. Now it was Sophia's turn to choose how she would respond. The time for words had passed. Sophia knew there was no reconciliation, no forgiveness, at least not right now. But there was one thing she needed to do. One final confrontation. She needed to look Emma in the eye and make sure she understood the depth of the betrayal, the irreparable damage that had been done. She wasn't just going to let this pass. She wasn't going to let Emma walk away with no consequences. The evening of the confrontation arrived. Sophia had called Emma earlier that day and told her to meet her at the small park where they had spent so many afternoons together, laughing, talking, sharing their lives. It felt symbolic somehow, meeting at a place that had once held so much meaning, only for everything to come crumbling down. She had been walking around in circles in her apartment all day, her thoughts spiraling as she gathered the strength to face Emma. She had no idea what she was going to say. But she couldn't keep avoiding this. As she arrived at the park, the sun was beginning to set, casting an orange glow over the world, a reflection of the fire that burned in Sophia's chest. Emma was already there, standing near the old wooden bench where they used to sit together. Sophia could see her silhouette in the fading light, her posture hesitant, as though unsure of what was to come. There was no warmth in the way Emma held herself. She was no longer the friend Sophia had known. She was the enemy, and nothing would change that. Sophia took a deep breath, her heart beating heavily in her chest, and approached. Emma turned as she heard the soft rustle of Sophia's footsteps. For a moment, their eyes met, and Sophia saw the same mixture of guilt, shame, and sorrow that she had seen in Alex's eyes. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. Emma had betrayed her too. She had to face the consequences of her actions. "Sophia," Emma's voice was quiet, tentative, as she stepped toward her. I never meant for this to happen. Please, can we talk?" Sophia didn't move. She stood her ground, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her gaze unwavering. "Talk," she repeated, her voice colder than she intended. "What is there to talk about, Emma?" You've already said everything you needed to say. You've made your choice, and now I have to make mine." Emma's face fell, the guilt she had tried so hard to mask becoming impossible to ignore. "I never wanted to hurt you, you know that, right? I love you, I was just confused. And Alex—" She trailed off, struggling for the right words, but Sophia didn't want to hear them. "Stop," she interrupted, her voice firm. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You made a choice. You chose him, and you lied to me. You both lied." Emma took a shaky breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I know I've messed up. But I never wanted to be the reason for all of this. I've lost you too, haven't I?" Sophia's breath caught in her throat, and for a moment she almost softened. She remembered all the times Emma had been there for her, the late-night conversations, the shared dreams, the unspoken bond between them. She remembered how easy it had been to trust Emma, how effortless their friendship had once seemed. But that trust had been shattered beyond repair. There was no going back. "You don't get to feel sorry for yourself, Emma," Sophia said, her voice sharp. "You've already destroyed everything. You've lost me, yes, but you've also lost something much more important. You've lost your integrity, and you've lost your friendship with me." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she stepped closer. "I never meant for this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you like this." Sophia shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "It doesn't matter. It's too late for apologies. You had the chance to do the right thing, to come clean, to stop it before it went this far. But you didn't, and now you have to live with that." For a moment the silence hung between them, both women standing still, unable to move or speak. Emma's tears were silent now, but Sophia could feel the weight of her regret. Sophia had once been the person who would have embraced Emma, comforted her, told her everything would be okay. But now she couldn't be that person. She couldn't pretend that things could be fixed, that they could just go back to how they had been. "I'm done, Emma," Sophia said finally, her voice steady and resolute. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. You made your choices, and I'm making mine. We're done." Emma looked as though the wind had been knocked out of her. Her expression was one of devastation, as though she couldn't comprehend the finality in Sophia's words. "Please, don't say that. We've been through too much. We can fix this, right?" Sophia met her gaze, her heart heavy but unwavering. "No, we can't fix this, and I don't want to try anymore." The words felt final, like a door slamming shut, and as much as it hurt, as much as it tore at her soul to see the pain on Emma's face, Sophia knew it was the right choice. She had been betrayed, she had been lied to, and now it was time to move on. "I need you to leave, now," Sophia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma stood there for a moment longer, as though waiting for Sophia to take it back, to reach out to her in some way. But when that didn't happen, she turned and walked away, her footsteps heavy on the ground. Sophia didn't watch her leave. Instead, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, allowing herself to feel everything she had been holding back. The pain, the heartbreak, the anger. It all rushed to the surface in one overwhelming wave. But through it all, there was something else, something that had been buried deep inside her for so long. It was strength, the strength to move on, to reclaim her life. Sophia didn't know what her future would hold, but she knew one thing. She was done being a victim. She was done letting others define her. She would rebuild herself, piece by piece, from the wreckage of the past. She didn't need Emma or Alex. She didn't need anyone who had betrayed her. As she turned and walked away from the bench, from the place where their friendship had been forged, Sophia felt a sense of finality wash over her. It was over, and for the first time in weeks she felt a glimmer of peace. It wouldn't be easy, but she was ready for whatever came next. She would find herself again, and nothing would stop her from moving forward. The darkness of betrayal had finally given way to the light of a new beginning.